I'm Benzie Johnson Jr., I'm enthusiastic about television, and I'm still a bit of a softie for kids' book franchises. The Wimpy Kids and Percy Jacksons of the world have had a rough go of it lately, converting their success to the small screen, but can Big Nate make it happen? Let's review the new Paramount Plus show. Lincoln Pierce's Big Nate franchise dates back to a comic strip syndicated since 1991. You probably know it better as the book series, which began in 2010, slugging it out for attention at scholastic book fairs with other supersized franchises such as Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Percy Jackson, Dork Diaries, and the 39 Clues. Apparently, this isn't Big Nate's first swing at a cartoon. Back when the comic was getting off the ground in 1991, Lee Mendelson, executive producer of the Peanuts specials, optioned the concept as a Saturday morning cartoon for NBC. However, literally the day after the ink dried, NBC canceled their Kids Lab in favor of milking the success of Saved by the Bell into a new teen programming block which would become TNBC. The cartoon was ultimately shot down and TNBC made it through the 90s before limping to death in 2002. Ramsey Nighto, Nick's current executive VP of Animation and Development, had reportedly wanted to adapt Big Nate for a while, however, and thus it was announced Nick would be making a cartoon out of it in February 2020. Originally set to premiere last September, it was shunted off to Paramount Plus and delayed to February 17th, because the bottomless pit is ever-hungering and all-devouring, and thus, here we are now. Personally, I'm not familiar with Big Nate as a franchise. The Wimpy Kid series was a horse I backed growing up, so I'm coming in entirely blind. The show is positioned as a typical character-driven hijinks ensue comedy, which means spirited C-student Nate and his friends are conceptually load-bearing. This is particularly true here, as the middle school slice-of-life gambit isn't unique enough in kids' TV to stand on its own as an idea. But if anyone can handle it well, it's Nick, who have plenty of these under their belts across mediums. So, with that said, can Big Nate make a big move? The first episode beckons.
Ours is a battle eternal. Who will win? Undecided. But I promise you this, I will not fail. My school, nay, the world needs a right!
This show's first episode illustrates a lot about what we're getting into, both through Nate's illustrated mind and from a story standpoint. Legend has it that anyone at Nate's school who gets 5 detentions in a week disappears, never to be seen again. And Nate's already up to 4. And it's only Tuesday. The disciplinary system at this school is efficient. A tale of quotidian survival mixed with having to wrangle around a suspicious new student who makes Nate's prankster streak look tame, the episode proves creatively promising and structurally strong. Ultimately, Nate has a good head on his shoulders, and that's a nice thing to show. Though, on the matter of niceties, I think the expository scene where we get to see Nate's family is a bit mixed. We get a solid amount of show don't tell from his sister, but his dad is a bit too heavy on telling. There could have been a better way to execute this, but maybe not within the constraints of this episode. That said, this first episode does hit quite a few interesting marks that get right to the core of what I'd want out of a series like this in general. Overall, however, I don't feel all that impressed. Potentially contributing to this is the fact that Big Nate seems heavily reliant on a lot of character tropes that we've seen plenty of before. The teacher who has it out for him, the lunch lady in her mystery me of the week, that slight shade of incompetence over some of the faculty. An environment so predictable makes the novel things this show does pull off. The entirety of the new students angle and the very realistic disrepair that shows PS38's age, for instance, feel stale. There are times where the creativity around the concept feels reduced to just checking my own preconceived boxes for what this kind of a show is supposed to do. And that sucks a lot of the energy out of it, honestly. It might be perfectly fine if you're already a fan of the characters within the target audience or are otherwise unfamiliar with this sort of premise, but as a show, and as a first outing, this comes off to me as kind of flat. You might be sitting here thinking, this show sounds cool, but it'd be nice if I could actually watch it where I am. Well, you know you can use NordVPN for that, right? Connect one of over 5,400 speedy servers across 60 countries and slide past content restrictions to your heart's content. And even if you do have to go to that sketchy video site, NordVPN's got top-tier encryption, and they've just launched new threat protection that blocks trackers and malware, so you don't have to worry while you watch this boy do his thing. NordVPN is stupid affordable, and there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so go to benzie.tk/VPN now to sign up and get protected. That's also in the description. I may receive a commission if you purchase. Giving the show another shot with its second episode, things spiral out of control for Nate as a disappointing birthday leads to a maxed out credit card and seemingly 101 ways to try and pay the money back. Well, 2, but there's only so much time to tell the story. I won't be nitpicky over papering over the realities of financial stress for the sake of kids' TV, but it feels like the episode premise kind of got out from under them in a way that left me a bit puzzled. The episode didn't need to be tighter so much as clearer, and the plot comes across as a bit loosely strung together. The escalating tension was done well, conceptually, but the payoff wasn't there, at least in my eyes. And the resolution, despite staying true to how these characters were built, comes off as a bit of plot convenient for the sake of episodic status quo. While episode 1 may have been predictable, it felt like it had a stronger through line when executed, whereas this came off as a bit more slapdash and pieced together, even though the story is structurally sound and meets its plot beats. While I have my concerns about the show from an execution standpoint, it's clear that they made sure Big Nate had strong foundations to build on. Probably one of the first things you notice is the show's striking visual style, which feels rich and vibrant without being oversaturated or tacky. The lighting feels a bit harsh to me, but beyond that, I think they've translated the art style really well, creating something faithful, yet unique and particularly expressive to boot. The characters feel developed enough, and it didn't take very long for me to have a strong enough sense of most of them to be able to follow things. I appreciate and do give props for the extra attention they pay to the groundwork here to ensure that everything makes sense and works. And it's notable that it feels like we haven't already seen every nook and cranny this world has to offer. I also appreciate the fact that these are 22-minute stories, a rarity in kids' TV in any capacity, and even then, something largely appropriate to story-driven fare of some description. As much as filling out the extra time can be a challenge, it's one that's met here, and I didn't get the impression that anything seemed rushed or thin on the ground in terms of pacing. With all that said, something is wrong with Big Nate. It's a show that seems to be doing just about everything right, but something comes apart for me in how the show executes. I'm not sure what it is, maybe it's just not something for me, but given how this cartoon is built, I feel like I could have really enjoyed it. But something just seems to be missing for me. There's nothing structurally or conceptually or creatively lacking on the show, thankfully, and it's a decent product on fundamentals, but the entertainment value is a bit lower than I was expecting. Perhaps it opens up the question as to whether Nick's getting soft now, as this is already the second middling thing Nick's come out with so far this year. The first being the sitcom Warped, which I decided not to do a full review of, though I will note in the 2022 year in review at the end of the year. That dynamic will be something to keep an eye on, but as for Big Nate as a show, you might have to try this out to see whether it's something that connects with you. There's definitely a lot going for it, but it might end up as something not all that big after all. Hit subscribe for more reviews and playing from the world of television just like this. The last thing I reviewed of Nick's was their sitcom That Girl Lele, a show that works surprisingly well, and which recently just got renewed for a second season. You can watch that review up here or down in the description. I'll see you next time.